Welcome to Dear Stranger, where distant stories find their way to the closest corners of your heart. There are people who walk quietly among us. No fancy degrees, no prestigious titles, no one paying much attention. And yet, they keep moving forward, slowly, patiently, with quiet determination and unwavering belief. Today, Dear Stranger brings you the story of one such person. A warehouse worker, unnoticed for a whole year, until everything changed. I'm the lead of a data analytics team at a large company. My work doesn't just revolve around numbers. It's also about people, hiring, training, building a strong team. And with a recent opening on my team, I started going through the list of applicants. As usual, there were tons of resumes, people with the right degrees, clear experience, some even having worked at big-name companies. But then one application made me stop. Not because it stood out in any flashy way, but because the applicant was a warehouse worker at our company. Not an engineer. Not a data analyst. He had been working in the warehouse for nearly a year, a fairly straightforward job, organizing, moving, inventorying boxes. At first, I thought, maybe he's just looking to switch things up internally. Maybe he wants to explore a new area. After all, our company encourages internal mobility and development. So I opened his application, and to be honest, I wasn't expecting much. But, as I started to read more carefully, everything turned out to be completely different from what I had imagined. And one question kept repeating in my head. Why is someone like this working in the warehouse? As I started reading through his application more carefully, I could hardly believe my eyes. In the work experience section, there were detailed descriptions of data analysis projects, market analysis, supply chain optimization, even demand forecasting models. Each project was laid out clearly, completely, the kind of structure you'd expect from someone who's truly in the field. He had worked as an analyst for years back in his home country. The only catch was, all that experience came from a small nation not known for its tech industry. And all of it was written in his native language. I realized, if I hadn't actually taken the time to read it all the way through, it would have been easy to miss what he was capable of. No MBA. No Stanford degree. No glowing names of global corporations. But the skills, the real relevant skills, they were unmistakably there. I became even more curious. I asked myself, what has he been doing this past year in the warehouse? And then I found a small paragraph in his cover letter. He wrote that during his free time, he'd been teaching himself Python, SQL, and even Tableau. He had quietly been learning everything we, in the analytics department, use every day. A whole year in the warehouse, and yet he never stopped preparing for his next opportunity. No complaints. No demands. No giving up. I sat still for a moment. Not from surprise anymore, but from something else, something deeper. Because it turns out, there are people who, even when placed in the lowest positions, are still quietly taking step after step forward, just waiting for a door to open. After reading through his application, I shared the story with my whole team. At first, I only meant to bring it up for their input, but their reaction surprised me all over again. One team member immediately said, "Wait, it's him? I know that guy. I've seen him standing near the warehouse during lunch, eating from a lunchbox while studying SQL on his phone." Another one laughed. "So he wasn't just doing it for fun. I actually asked him to help me sort out some numbers on a warehouse form once, and he fixed it faster than any of us could have." Turns out, everyone kind of knew about him. Not because he was loud or attention-seeking, but because he was always ready to lend a hand, always curious to understand more about what was happening beyond the warehouse. He wasn't the type to push his way in or ask for recognition, but he never hid his desire to one day step into the world of analytics. Another teammate looked at me and said, "If there's going to be an interview, I want in. I think he'd be a great fit with the team." It's rare for me to see such unanimous support from the team. For someone who's never sat at the same table, never officially worked in our department. This wasn't just a recognition of skill. It was a recognition of spirit, of attitude, of quiet persistence and humility that this man carried with him every day. And in that moment I knew I had no more doubts. This person deserved a real chance. When I made the decision to recommend him, I knew the real challenge was just beginning. The skills? Undeniable. The team? Fully supportive. But there was one familiar obstacle: our internal salary policy. At this company, when someone transfers roles internally, especially from a lower-level position, they usually aren't given much of a raise. Even if the new role is far more complex and requires significantly more expertise. I'd seen it happen many times before. And every time, it left me uncomfortable. But this time, I couldn't let it happen. Not with him. I spent the entire afternoon reviewing policies, trying to find any room for flexibility, any clause that allowed for a fair adjustment. Then I started writing a series of messages to HR, to the head of finance, to senior management. Every message revolved around a single point. Don't lowball him. Don't underpay him. He deserves better than that. I didn't make emotional appeals. I simply laid out the facts: his skill set, his experience, his attitude, and his long-term value. I wasn't asking for an exception. I was demanding fairness. Eventually, HR got back to me. Their tone was a little cautious, but I could hear a hint of concession. All right, we've reviewed the case. The offer will be close to double his current salary. I didn't celebrate. I just exhaled. Because in the end, I knew I had helped open the door. Not through privilege, but through reason and the respect he had rightfully earned. I was the one chosen to make the call and deliver the offer. Before dialing, I reminded myself, speak slowly, be clear, give him time to think it over. But I had barely gotten a few words out. Congratulations. We're officially offering you the data analyst position. When I heard his voice on the other end, filled with emotion, I accept. Thank you so much, thank you all. He didn't hesitate for even a second. He didn't ask for more time. He didn't negotiate. There was only joy, pure, overwhelming joy, and a slight catch in his voice. I could hear background noise. It sounded like he was still near the work area. Someone nearby asked, "What's going on?" And he answered, "I got the job." I smiled. Not a polite, professional smile, but a genuine, warm smile from deep inside. Before hanging up, I joked, "Well, if the warehouse is short one guy tomorrow, I'll take the blame." He burst out laughing. A laugh full of relief, the kind that comes only after months of quiet effort and held back hope. I ended the call and sat in silence for a few seconds. And I thought to myself, this is the first time hiring someone has ever made me feel this happy. After that call, I heard he went out to celebrate with a few friends. The warehouse might have been one person short the next day. But honestly, I doubt anyone minded. Looking back, I still don't feel like I did anything grand. I didn't save anyone. I didn't grant a favor. I didn't perform some heroic act. I just did my job. Read an application thoroughly. Recognized real value. And made sure he was treated fairly. I didn't take a cent out of my own pocket. I didn't promise anything beyond honesty. But the result was that someone capable finally walked through a door he should have been able to walk through long ago. Later, I wrote a short post about this on our internal company forum. The response was overwhelmingly positive. Some even called me inspiring or said I was an ideal kind of manager. But honestly, I found the whole thing strangely simple. Because if someone is skilled enough, kind enough, and works hard enough, shouldn't being given a chance be the logical outcome? Not something we label as extraordinary? It should be reasonable. A natural alignment of effort and fairness. I didn't share this story to be praised. I shared it as a reminder, to myself, and maybe to you, that sometimes all it takes is for us to pause a little longer, look a little closer, listen a little more carefully, and we might find something truly beautiful, even in the most ordinary of places. And those reasonable things, sometimes, they're the ones that feel most like magic. Not everyone starts in the right place. Not everyone gets seen at the right time. But if we're patient enough to look a little closer, to listen a little longer, we might recognize true worth, even in the most unassuming people. Thank you for listening to today's story on Dear Stranger. If you believe that every stranger carries something worth hearing, stay with us and let's keep listening together. Thank you for listening. Don't forget to subscribe to Dear Stranger, where distant stories find their way to the closest corners of your heart.